I've always taken pride in my ability to handle the unexpected. As the manager of Monty's, a colossal restaurant nestled on Miami Beach Marina, I've seen my fair share of chaos. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what lurked in the shadows of Monty's. My name is Glenn Wilkerson, and my only witness to this story was Aaron, the bar manager that was also a good buddy of mine. We were both in our early 30s, fitness enthusiasts, and, if I may say, quite popular with the ladies who frequented our establishment. "Pretty girls drink free" was our motto after the doors were closed, so we were pretty slow to acknowledge the weird things happening late night because our attention was elsewhere. We'd close the place down night after night with a few pretty girls lingering, drinks flowing freely. It was our routine, our little tradition. But traditions, as I soon learned, can be shattered. It started subtly. One night, as the laughter died down and the hum of conversation ebbed away, we heard it, a loud slam, like a door being shut with force. We shrugged it off. After all, Monty's was old, and old buildings have their quirks. But then it happened again, and again. Each night, a little more pronounced. Aaron, usually the joker, grew visibly tense. "You hear that, right?" he'd ask, his usual smirk replaced by a frown. I couldn't deny it. Something was off, but what, a squatter? It wouldn't be the first time. Monty's was massive, an easy hideout for someone seeking shelter. I should have checked, but the allure of another drink, another laugh, always seemed more appealing. Until that night. The night everything changed. The evening had been typical, busy, loud, vibrant. But as we began our closing routine, a sense of unease crept over me. The air felt heavier, charged with a silent warning. I tried to shake it off as paranoia, the product of too many late nights. Aaron and I were upstairs, the last area to close. The rest of Monty's lay in darkness below us. That's when we heard it, a sound that seemed like an extremely distressed voice, unlike anything I'd ever heard. It was primal, inhuman. The wind from the marina made all types of crazy noises. We both agreed we're being ridiculous obsessing on this. "We need to check that out," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Aaron nodded, his usual bravado absent. We made our way downstairs, the disturbed voice growing louder, more menacing. The sound seemed to emanate from the liquor room. I hesitated at the door, my hand on the knob. The light was on, and I know I was the last person in there that night and definitely turned it off. I knocked on the door and said, "Is anyone in there? If you don't get out, I'm calling the police." And then I saw it. A shadow that moved, independent of any light source. It stopped right on the other side of the door and made weird, distressed animal sounds. I stood frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. The shadow stopped, its edges quivering right under the door. I couldn't see any features, just an abyss of darkness where light should be. And the growling, it filled the room. A sound so terrifyingly alien that it rooted me to the spot. That was, until I felt Aaron's hand on my shoulder pulling me back. "We need to go. Now." We didn't run, but every step away from that room was charged with urgency. We didn't speak of it. Not then. We just locked up and left, the growl still echoing in my ears. The next afternoon, Aaron brought his gun and we searched every inch of the complex and found nothing in the liquor room or anywhere else out of place. I never reported it. Who would believe a story of shadows and growls? Instead, I changed my routine. I made sure Aaron was with me at every closing. He continued to bring his gun, a silent acknowledgement of our shared fear. We never went back to investigate. The curiosity that once might have driven me was gone, replaced by a visceral dread of what we might find. Aaron and I, we just wanted to forget, to pretend it was a trick of the light, a figment of our imagination. But some things can't be unseen, unheard. The shadow in the liquor room haunted me, a constant lurking presence in the back of my mind. Eventually, I left Monty's. I took a job at Joe's Stone Crabs, a place with no upstairs bars, no dark corners, no hidden rooms. Aaron followed soon after, taking a job in a brightly lit hotel lobby. We never talked about that night very often until recently. There was an understanding between us, a shared experience that went beyond words. Nobody would believe this, but we know. Something I can't explain. I never close alone now. I can't. The memory of that growling, that unnatural shadow, it's a reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved, some shadows unexplored. Monty's continues to thrive, its secrets buried in its walls, known only to those who've dared to listen. The manager after me, Rose, had similar experiences, and she left right away. Smart move. The fractured light of a neon sign outside, the shadows in my South Beach apartment stretched like dark fingers across the floor. The place was a relic. I lived on the 5th floor of this once beautiful 8-story apartment building that was half empty now. It had been almost a year without an elevator, although there was still a sign saying it will be repaired soon. Yeah, right. In Miami, this is not that unusual, unfortunately, so the mostly abandoned upper floors became a constant problem with squatters breaking into vacant apartments. The main door's lock was broken, just like all the security cameras, and walking around the upper floors felt so creepy, it was reminiscent of the Overlook Hotel in The Shining. I felt bad for the few residents still up there. Most of us bought Ring cameras since Amazon packages were constantly stolen. Everyone was looking to move as quickly as possible that had any sense. Surprisingly, a new resident moved in on the 8th floor, Jeffrey, and his dog Pete, a cute terrier mix. Why would he move up there? He constantly complained since he was promised the elevator would be fixed next week by the realtor, which explained why they would take such long breaks in the lobby after their walks. I would hate going up and down 8 stories every time. He was a nice and equally weird man out of sync with the rhythm of the world, mumbling about conspiracies and truths that he insisted we all needed to hear. One night, my friends that lived on the 2nd floor were having a few friends over as Jeffrey tried to walk in. "This isn't a homeless party," James yelled, and he scurried out. James could be an asshole. He told me the guy was a squatter and laughed at how naive I was. Our building was a magnet for the lost and the forgotten, and I'd seen my share of homeless drift through. But Jeffrey was different. His eyes held a depth of knowledge, or madness. I couldn't tell which. A few times a month, the abandoned apartments were checked by off-duty police that the building hired, and one of those nights I went downstairs to do laundry and realized my buddies were right. I heard Jeffrey in the janitor closet trying to quiet Pete as he heard my footsteps passing by, whispering reassurances into the dog's ear. I wanted to help them without embarrassing the man, gut-wrenching. Then I heard him emotionally talking about deep state conspiracies and how everyone was after them, whispering to the dog about the Denver airport and lizard people, aliens, etc. Something shifted. He seemed terrified, not dangerous, but I couldn't assume he was nonviolent when his fear was real life to him. I saw vulnerability and desperation, and I wished I could help. My buddies make fun of me for being soft, but I'm quite the opposite. I just went about my business and didn't say anything as much as it bothered me. Life in the building spiraled from there. It was the next week's sweep of vacant apartments that changed everything. James called me and said there was a crazy situation with Jeffrey and the police upstairs. I sprinted up the steps and found the cops in an apartment where Jeffrey stood at its center, wild-eyed, pointing at a crazy chart on the wall as if it held his soul. Note cards with red string all over like the movies. The police and residents were an audience to his unraveling, watching him hold a container of liquid from a safe distance. He was screaming to stay back. "This is hydrochloric acid." Then he poured it on himself. It was tap water. The police didn't understand. None of them did. In that moment, amidst the cacophony of shouts and the sharp barks of Pete, I saw the terror in Jeffrey's eyes. It was the look of a man cornered by his own mind. I stepped forward, not knowing what I'd say, only that I had to reach him, to pull him back from the brink. As I approached, the world seemed to slow. I asked him to just relax and pleaded with the officers to give me a chance. Chill him out. He was terrified, begging me to look after his dog as he sobbed and allowed himself to be cuffed. I promised to take care of Pete, and I have still. He seemed relieved. "It's time I tell the truth about these conspiracies and help them," he said tearfully, which I interpreted as he knew he needed help. "I've done everything possible to help him. He is in a psychiatric ward, and I've actually visited him, showing him pictures of Pete. He seems relieved to be there, only caring about Pete and having someone to listen to his labyrinthine theories. They were wild, yes, but within the madness, there were glimmers of insight, fragments of a truth seen through a distorted lens. Through all his craziness, he cared most about his dog, so I've got his back.